Okay, so the quote I'm going to read is from chapter 13, page 231. So it's a couple pages. Not pages, paragraphs. And as her correspondence with other politically active citizens grew, she began to learn new things, information that simply wasn't available to the general public. Certain military people who corresponded with her dropped hints about things without meaning to, and she and Peter put them together to build up a fascinating and frightening picture of Warsaw Pact activity. They were indeed preparing for war, a vicious and bloody earthbound war. The Methesines wasn't wrong to suspect that the Second Warsaw Pact was not abiding by the terms of the League. And the character of the Methesines gradually took on a life of his own. At times, she found herself thinking like the Methesines at the end of a writing session, agreeing with ideas that were supposed to be calculated poses. And sometimes she read Peter Luck's essay and found herself annoyed at his obvious blindness as to what was really going on. Perhaps it's impossible to wear an identity without becoming what you pretend to be. She thought of that, worried about it for a few days, and then wrote a column using that as a premise, to show that politicians who toadied to the Russians in order to keep the peace would inevitably end up subservient to them in everything. It was a lovely bite at the party in power, and she got a lot of good mail about it. She also stopped being frightened of the idea of becoming, to a degree, Demethesines. He's smarter than Peter, and I ever gave him credit for, she thought. So the reason I chose this, also, I don't really know if I'm saying that right. If you can see it, it's like Demosthenes. I don't know. That doesn't really matter. But so the reason I chose this is for context. Why I read I probably could have read less, but the reason I read the first two paragraphs is because, to give context, Ender has a sister named Valentine and Peter. And so they were both born before him, and they were supposed to be Ender. So the government wanted them to be super smart battle commanders that lead the army against the aliens, but they didn't turn out because Peter, I don't know, he had I don't remember the problem, and Valentine was too empathetic, and they needed someone who would just kill. So Ender became the third, and what the third means is that he's the third child, and that's looked down upon in society because it's sci-fi and everything. But so Peter and Valentine made up these like pseudonyms. So Valentine in this case is Demethesines, or I don't really know how to say it. And her brother and her made up these pseudonyms to write like articles and stuff like that to sway government opinions. And it started off as a joke, but then they're also like they're teenagers. They're like, Valentine's 11, I think Peter's 13 or something like that. These young kids created these articles that got world opinions and swayed world opinions, which is what they wanted. So everybody in the world is reading these articles, and they're actually starting to sway public opinion and influence the public, which is what they wanted. And so the reason I chose this is because Valentine says, perhaps it's impossible to wear an identity without becoming what you pretend to be. And I feel like not only is that important for the book, it's important for just the real world, because the reason she said this is because she created this Demethesines character to be to sway opinion, become a powerful person, and that's not how she is. But over time, she suddenly is like, wait, I like having this power and finding out government secrets and swaying public opinion. So she went into this not wanting to be a person like that, but coming out of it as like, I do kind of enjoy becoming this powerful person, even though it's not what I wanted to be. Like, she's pretending to be it, but she's sort of turning into the person. And then with like real world, I feel like that influences the real world, because like so many people pretend to be something that they're not, but eventually they get so delved in, no, that's the wrong word, but so like into it that they become that person. And yeah, so that's not, this whole section isn't super crazy relevant to the book. Like, obviously it is, because I don't want to spoil it in case you wanted to read it, but Peter ends up becoming president, and a lot of that is to do with Peter and Demethesines' articles that they wrote. So yeah, it's important to the book, but I just felt like it's important because it's an actual lesson that I took away from the book that is used in the book, and it can also be used in the real world.